More chips, don't let the salad win. That's the message in terms of nature of the food maybe that we consume in Wales.
Wrexham.
He's done it, the magic little man, Watkin. Oh, he scored! Steve Watkin has got a goal!
Ball breaks for Foden, it's in early, as Rush likes it, and he'll chase it, he'll collect it, Ian Rush!
Bennett, and that's a second for Wrexham. Well, classic, changing defence into attack.
Conley! 1-0 to Wrexham, Carl Conley's done it!
Crumble for options, put it back to Morels. Oh, it's a good save! Oh no, it is, and it's in the back of the net. Andy Morel. What a goal! What a goal! What a goal from Al Robson Carnham! Folks, good wicket kids up. Something special is happening here tonight. Wales are going into the semi-finals of the European Championship.
Wanagati, Ferguson has definitely won it for Wrexham now.
And here's Mendy! There's that race-class roar again! Saved by Foster!
Wales are going to the Euros next summer. Wilkinson's wonderful Welsh women.
Wales! Wales have done it! They've reached the World Cup! It's him again! Champions! Wrexham are promoted! They have their storybook ending!
The first team in history to eat more chips and not let salad win.
Hello and welcome to the Eat More Chips podcast, the official podcast for one of the most recognisable flags in the Welsh football supporters universe. In a week when a Swedish football enthusiast broke a Guinness World Record when he juggled the ball using only his knees, chest, head and feet for 28 hours, 21 minutes and 2 seconds. Daniel Jakob took on the record for the longest marathon controlling a football brackets male at the Ridskällen Sports Complex in Linköping, Sweden. Jakob, who was allowed a 15-minute break every 3 hours, beat the record set by Briton Dan Magnus at 26 hours in June 2010. I want to inspire others and push their limits, promote consistency and focus, and show how social media can be used to spotlight positive challenges and achievements, Jakob told Guinness World Records. This record is the perfect combination of my passion for football, content creation, and personal growth. Sounds a bit weird to me. However, I know two people who only dream they can keep it up for 28 hours, and they'd even like to keep a football in the air for that long too. It's Jamie and Daz.
Hello, both.
It's Daz. Hey, it's Daz. Daz. He's here. He's see, we haven't locked him in the basement. For everybody who messaged me saying we know you've got him tied to a post, chained to a post. Well, I mean, not. I mean, normally yes, but
not without paying for it. No,
I don't know. Exactly. I don't know if you saw that, Daz, but last week he sent you to the Blue Oyster Bar.
I did.
I did. Yes. I mean, it was far too twinkly and sparkly for my liking. Let's be honest.
I bet you a train platform has never looked so glamorous in all its life.
That is true. That is true. But it was bastard cold on that there platform. So,
it sounded it, to be fair. We've not had a chance to catch up then. How was your Christmas and New Year, Daz?
Yeah. I managed to sort of do all the usual thing of drinking lots, eating a fair bit, got some, reasonably good presents and stuff. So, I'm not taking anything back to the shop by stealth this year. I don't think so. I think I count that as a success. I think, yeah.
Now all three of you are here, I can show you my Christmas present that I got because I was waiting until Daz came up. So I need to change the image a little bit because I need it bigger. So
it's not the new Wrexham James Bond wear that you're sporting there today, is it?
No, it isn't. No, the slimming black look.
What the hell is that polo neck all about?
But it's my slimming black look. Do you not like it?
Slimming? Have you got the receipt? You need to take it back.
Shut up, wanker.
Anyway, what do we have for Christmas?
Look at this.
Wow, what's that?
So it's a magnet board, okay, with all the Wrexham players on it, including a nice little tote bag, with all the Wrexham players in it, and you can draw on it. So I can pretend I know what I'm talking about by drawing arrows and stuff, and he's going to come down here and he's going to double up there, and then you can just delete it by just doing that, and it gets rid of it. So it's whatever, and there's loads of other. So it's a magnet board, and then there's loads of the other players in the tote bag. So every player in the squad. So there's Windass, who is not smiling, so it's just like him. There's Max Clareworth, which is great. There's Danny Ward, fresh out of his hospital bed. There's Lee on the way probably to Bolton, by all sounds of it. And there's Cody. Well, we won't need him. So it's really good. It's really, really cool. I'm really enjoying it. So expect to see more of that.
So what do you do with it?
I write on it, Jamie is a wanker, repeatedly.
No, because you're going to be down there pitch side, I guess, next to the two Phils, and then just basically,
Phil, put him on, Phil.
And then when the players aren't doing what you think they should be doing, you'll be showing them the moves and stuff. So I guess,
no, listen, where's my pen? There, you want to go this way? Go that way.
Hang on, just
there.
The goal is there. The goal is there.
Hold it up a little bit so I can see the forwards. Hey, do you know what? I'm impressed. Just the visual element of that. You've actually got the formation right. I'm impressed.
You cheeky sod, of course I have. I'm not an idiot. Well, I am an idiot.
Yeah.
And plus, the BBC showed me how to do it, so it's fine. That was my Christmas present. Lovely.
That's an impressive present.
That's a good
present.
It is.
It's lovely. It's lovely. The problem is we can't now sign any more players because then I won't have the. I'd have to find somebody like Alex Moore or something. And I'd have to scratch out their name on the back and write on it in biro, Alex Moore or something. So yeah. Anyway, never mind. Let's get on to some news, shall we? And some interesting news this week. The last couple of weeks, Daz. I've not had a chance to talk to you about it because obviously you've been on hollybobs, but Ian Rush, in the last few weeks, has been released from hospital, having spent 2 days in intensive care in the Countess of Chester Hospital. The former Liverpool and Wales striker was admitted to the Countess of Chester Hospital with breathing difficulties and was taken into intensive care. He responded to treatment, thankfully, and was able to go home and is understood to be recovering well. Rush is Liverpool's all-time leading goal scorer with 346 goals and 660 appearances for the club across 2 spells. Liverpool thanked the hospital for providing the best care possible for our legend and ambassador of the club. The 64-year-old won 5 division titles and 2 European Cups with Liverpool, among other titles, and was capped 73 times by Cymru. Rush also had spells with Juventus, Leeds, Newcastle, Sheffield United, of course, Wrexham, Jamie, we remember that, and Sydney Olympic before ending his playing career in 2000. I was quite scared when this news came up, Daz. I don't know about you, because you're kind of thinking, not Ian Rush. No, Ian Rush can't leave us. He is a legend. He is. He is a Wales and Liverpool absolute top of the tree legend, isn't he?
Yeah, and and it would absolutely have to take some sort of super flu, as they were calling it, to knock that man down, because he's an absolute legend and a nice guy as well. It's everyone talks about it. I've met him once. I had the fortune of meeting him once, and I know others have as well. And it's just an absolute gent. But absolutely shocking that because he's not that old. What is he, 60 something? So I was absolutely a bit worried about that, because that's where you get those surprise sort of news that somebody that you didn't have a clue could even remotely be unwell, and the fact that he thought he was close to dying and all of that you read afterwards is quite frightening. So really, really glad to hear that he's at least out of the intensive care and then begun to on the recovery. Whether it's quick or slow, it just as long as he gets well, that's the important thing.
You'll get well soon, Rushy, from all us on the pod, obviously, because we don't want to lose you. You're too valuable to us as a talisman for the Cymru team to get to the World Cup. So come on, Rushy, well done. So now that somebody's managed to pull me off the ceiling with a pole and a hook, after all the excitement of Friday. Let's go over it piece by piece. Let's enjoy it like a 10-course meal, because it was something that was quite incredible on Friday. And before we even start all this, Jamie, occasionally in the time that you and I have both been following Wrexham, the 30 plus years that we've been following them, there have been the odd moments, haven't there, where it's been absolute, those moments where you go, this is why I'm a Wrexham fan right here. And for me, Friday, I was fortunate to be there. You weren't. But even so, Friday, I think, was one of those games. I mean, just generally, before we start talking about the game, what are your feelings looking back now at what we've managed to achieve, not just over Christmas and New Year, but that Friday game?
I think first and foremost, before we even say anything about the game, I think you have to say for any obviously in the last few years, there's been a lot of new interest in Wrexham in particular. A lot of new fans from overseas who are maybe even new to football. And they've probably heard dinosaurs like me and you banging on about the FA Cup and how special it is. And then obviously, you see a lot of the Premier League teams, unfortunately, now don't see the FA Cup as a huge priority, and you see the rotation that goes on and things like that. But the weekend as a whole, with the likes of Macclesfield, which was an unbelievable, that's got to be the biggest cup shock ever. Unbelievable. But with games like that and our game, those types of games and the weekend as a whole was a reminder for everybody how special this competition is. Absolutely, there is nothing like it. There's nothing like it. And like you just said, over the years, we've been very fortunate over the years to have had some real memorable moments in this competition alone. The obvious famous one is Mickey T and Steve Watkin with the beating Arsenal, but Middlesbrough, Birmingham, the Chesterfield, although it was painful, there's been so many memories over the years. And this, you are spot on. This was special. Like you say, unfortunately, I wasn't at the game. Thankfully, my plans did change slightly because I think I said last week that I didn't even think I'd be able to see the first half because I was scheduled to be in a meeting, but I literally at the 11th hour I managed to pull the meeting forward. So I literally walked through the door as the game was kicking off. So I managed to watch the whole game, and I thoroughly enjoyed everything about it. The game itself was phenomenal, and like you say, we'll break it down in a minute. But the game itself, from start to finish, was just such a brilliant game to watch. I thoroughly enjoyed because it was on TNT Sports. And you had Darren Fletcher, not the Man United manager, Fletcher, and Ali McCoy commentate. And I've heard them commentating on games before, but they were so good. So, such a good to listen to along with the game. The fact that there was no VAR in all the games across the weekend was brilliant. Yep. Very much back to what the referee's decisions. It was just phenomenal, and you are spot on. This one goes up there on the shelf with some of the other lifetime memories that we've been fortunate enough to get from this competition, as well as other things, but from this competition it was fantastic.
Well, let's look at the lineup first of all. 4 changes from the league win over Derby County. Dan Scarr in for Max Cleworth, who apparently has had a slight groin strain. George Dobson in for Matty James. Libby Kakache coming back in for George Thomason, and Ollie Rathbone in for Josh Windass. Nice, strong squad. The fact that we beat Derby 2-1 and he made 4 changes against Nottingham Forest, do you kind of think then that this is what he feels is kind of his strongest 11, barring injuries?
I don't think this is too far from his strongest 11. I think, like you say, Kiefer Moore and Kabore and Max, probably the 3 that would come into this. I think you could make a case for Matty James after some of his performances as to whether it's a whole separate debate that as to whether him or Sheaf. For me, George Messi is undroppable at the minute, so he would be in the team regardless. Do you know what I mean? I think just because of the nature of the game and the fact that it was Nottingham Forest, I think when we're talking about lineup, I think you probably have to look at it across both teams, because it was such a fascinating thing that we were all waiting for, wasn't it? I mean, I absolutely didn't look at the team in the car on my drive home. I stopped, I pulled over onto the side, and I looked at the team, obviously. But yeah, when I saw the team, I was like, hey, I'm happy enough with that. I wondered whether we'd see Kiefer Moore back. Obviously, there was these bloody rumours doing the rounds about Max and Aston Villa, which Parky's since quashed, and it's a groin problem. No issues with Scar coming in because I think he's been very reliable this season. So yeah, to be fair, when I saw that team, I had no issues with it. But then I think, like I say, if you look at it broadly across both teams, obviously when the Forest team came out, you first glance at it, you think to yourself, yeah, that's kind of what I expected. It was, I think it was 9 changes from the game against West Ham or something like that. And you look at it and you think, yeah, he's done what I expected him and probably what most people expected him to do, which is pick not his first team. That being said, you do have to remember how good of a team that was, and how expensive of a team that was, that we were facing from the first whistle. But yeah, it was kind of as expected, I think, from them. But from our point of view, we were a bit unsure because of a couple of injuries and things, and obviously the rumour before the game about Max. But yeah, absolutely no issues with the team that was selected. Yeah, all good.
Well, I'm going to go through it, Jamie, goal by goal, and just ask your opinion of each one because I think they're all worth a separate mention. Very little happened actually for the first kind of 35 minutes. Although it was exciting and it was very end to end, there was no kind of clear cut chances. Sometimes you felt they were feeling each other out a little bit, but Nottingham Forest always had that massive threat. But again, we stood toe to toe. However, 36th minute, Dobson makes a tackle on the edge of the box, a fantastic tackle, which the Forest players just seemed to stop, thinking the ref was going to blow up. Wasn't a foul at all. Yeah. He got the ball beautifully. Falls out, bounces out of that.
It was quite funny because I felt like a VAR official because there was loads of people on Twitter saying it looked a foul from the stands, and I was replying to loads of people saying, "I'm categorically telling you, it wasn't a foul. It was a great tackle." Because you when you saw the replay, the benefits of watching it at home or watching it on TV, you saw the replays. It was a brilliant tackle.
And you play the whistle anyway, and the ref did not whistle. He waved it on. The ball bounced out of that tackle to Kakachie's feet. And you're thinking, okay, what's he going to do here? And he dances around the front of the box through a number of players and just gets into the box and almost passes it into the bottom left of corner of the goal. It takes a small deflection off the heel of a Forest defender, drifts past the Forest keeper, Wrexham 1-0 up. I mean, what did you make of that one?
Well, it wasn't. I don't think it would have been on anybody's bingo card, would it, that Kakachie was going to score his first goal, and certainly not with his right foot. But like you say, I think the two main things from that goal, one is George Dobson's tackle, perfectly good tackle, breaking the play down. It was one of several key moments in the game for George Dobson. We can talk about him at the end in isolation, but yeah, brilliant tackle. The other important thing in that move was the fact, and this is what you want, is the fact that Kakachie was in such an advanced position to be able to capitalise on it. That's what you need from your wingers and your wing backs is that they're up and down, and that they're defending and they're coming back when they need to, but that they're also supporting the attack when you're going forward. So the fact that he was in an advanced position and he was there to pick up that loose ball, and to be fair, he looked confident with it. Like you say, it was more of a place than just swinging his foot at it and hoping for the best. A little bit of luck with it because obviously it did take a bit of a deflection, which again, you've probably only seen in the replay. You certainly wouldn't have got a feel for that live in the ground. But it was only slight, and I don't think it made a huge difference. It was on target. But you're right. I mean, just kind of going back to your initial statement about feeling each other out up until that goal, I think it's a good way of putting it. To be fair, I think what we were seeing from Nottingham Forest was not what you'd expect to see from a Premier League time. Aside, it looked kind of what you'd expect, given that it was pretty much a whole new team. They look a bit disorganised. They look a bit, disjointed. They looked a little bit clueless at times, and I think we kind of overwhelmed them at times. And the main and the most important thing for me was in that first half, we very much went toe to toe with that team. We gave as good as we got. I think the stats were pretty even in that first half. I think, to be fair, we were more than in the game, and I think I don't think you can make much of a case or much of an argument to say we didn't deserve to go one up when we did, to be fair. But yeah, great goal, great for Kakache to get his first goal, and obviously, he thoroughly enjoyed running over to the tech end and experiencing that celebration with the crowd, because it's the first time he's done that, isn't it? So nice that he got to enjoy it at home.
Well, 3 minutes after, we were basking in the joy of that. Then 3 minutes later, Doyle gets the ball on the Wrexham left, feeds the ball to Rathbone in the centre of the field. He rides a tackle. The ball bounces out to Broadhead. Broadhead then, again, does a little bit of a jink, slips the pass back to Rathbone inside the box, beats 2 defenders and fires a shot to the bottom right of the goal. 2-0 Wrexham. We're all going nuts. How did you see that? I mean, beautiful from both Broadhead and from Rathbone. I mean, how did you see this goal?
Well, you've got to give a shout, like you mentioned there, the earlier part of that move, because it all started with Rolls. I'm going to rename Callum Doyle to Rolls, as in Rolls Royce. I waxed lyrical about Callum Doyle last week. If you remember, you asked me about my pick, and I picked him. My biggest worry with him at the minute is whether we can hold on to him. Because I tell you what, if he carries on as he is, then there will be Premier League clubs watching him.
Absolutely.
Because he has been and continues to be unbelievable for us. I mean, absolute night and day difference of a player compared to that one we saw in the first couple of games. But yeah, he started the move, like you say. He picked the ball up, gave it to Broadhead, who again I thought was brilliant. He was brilliant. It's so good to see him enjoying his football, and enjoying the role he's playing in the team. He seems to have he's got confidence now in his game, and he's doing what he does best, which is he's frightening. When he's got the ball at his feet and he's running at people, he is frightening. The defenders are scared to death of him. And the crazy thing is, and in all seriousness, I use the analogy of Messi-esque, but that's the best way I can compare it. Whenever you watch Messi, he's a low centre of gravity, and he's not necessarily the quickest, but he moves as if the ball is glued to his foot, and that's very much what it's like with Broadhead. It's not very often he loses the ball when he's in full flight, but yeah, he made a brilliant run, towards the Forest goal, and then, like you say, Rathbone again doing what he does best, which is tramming on from midfield, getting beyond the strikers to be that support. And to be honest with you, once it landed at his feet in the box, you knew it was going nowhere else. It was a fairly straightforward finish, and like you say, cue pandemonium, and again, great that it was down that end of the ground, because obviously with the cop still being empty and stuff, scoring at that end it must for the players, it must be a bit crap to score and then look up and it's just a crane. So it's to get that whole jubilation to score at the tech end. And yeah, I mean, Christ, I can imagine what the noise must have been like in the Kairos at that point.
Oh, it was astounding.
Yeah.
Matched only by the complete silence from the 1,300 Notts Forest fans who were right next to us, particularly when the tech end started chiming up with "You're just a shit Notts County." I think that kind of capped it all, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So we came towards the end of the first half, and this for me, potentially, because I turned to the guys next to me and went, "We might pay for that." 45 minutes, open pass to Smith, who gets the ball completely open, beyond the defenders, nowhere near the centre-backs, and he's on his own, and he runs at the keeper. He's one-on-one with the Forest keeper. He shoots the ball, tries to get the ball to shoot to the left of the keeper, but the keeper, it's just too close to him, and the keeper manages to stretch a leg out and half scoop it in to himself. One-on-one would have made it 3-0. That, for me, would have been game over, because Nottingham Forest would not have come back from 3-0. And I kept turning to people saying, we're going to pay for that. We're going to pay for that. I mean, I'm disappointed, because of all people, I thought Sam Smith would have put it away.
Well, he must have borrowed Lewis O'Brien's boots for the night. No, look, I'm jesting. I agree with you 100%. I had the very same opinion. I couldn't believe, I was literally standing in the lounge, sort of half celebrating, and I was like, couldn't believe that he hadn't scored, because, like you say, a 3-0 the game would have been over. That I don't think they'd have come back from that.
No, done.
But my overwhelming feeling at that point was exactly like you just said. I was a little bit thinking, I hope we're not going to regret that. To be honest with you, with the way the second half transpired, even if we had have lost the game, I certainly wouldn't have been pelting Sam Smith for that miss, because so much more happened, and there will be nobody more peeved about it than him. You know, he'll be devastated that he didn't finish that, because it was a big opportunity for him to get a goal against, you know, Premier League team, and that would have been unbelievable. But you know what, things happen for a reason, and as it all played out, it was probably a good thing it didn't go in, because it then set up what came in the second half.
So half-time, the Nottingham Forest players left to the ringing boos of their own fans, singing, "What the FNL was that?" We're obviously rubbing our hands with delight. You knew something was coming, because you knew that there is no way that Sean Dyche would put up with that. And so half-time, he brings on Kevin Mauer's finest, Nico Williams, Dominguez, and Gibbs White on for Zinchenko, McAtee, and Backward. McAtee, by the way, I thought he was terrible. Oh, everybody before the game was saying, "Oh, he's gonna be a real problem." He wasn't. He was rubbish, absolutely rubbish.
To be honest, in that first half, I don't think any of them were that great. To be fair, I mean, you think of Damari Hutchinson. I think they paid 40 million quid for him, or 35 million quid for him, and he wasn't that great. I mean, the only thing he did in the first half was piss and moan when he thought George Dobson fouled him before the goal. You know, they had that Zinchenko playing left back, who's on loan from Arsenal. He was dog shit and all.
Rubbish. Yeah, so, he was rubbish. Yeah, no, totally agree. I mean, the fact that Sean Dyche had to put the family silver on at half time, were you surprised in any way? And therefore, were you also worried about what you thought was coming?
No, because I think I absolutely wasn't surprised, because, and as he alluded to himself in his interview after the game, from his perspective, from Sean Dyche's perspective, and from the fans' perspective, that was an unacceptable performance. The fact that it was against a championship team, the fact that it was against us, is neither here nor there. Against anybody, it was an unacceptable performance. So he knew he had to do something. But I mean, obviously, when you see the changes that he makes, you do think to yourself, this will be a much tougher test, and it very much proved to be that. I mean, let's just give some context to the fact. And again, I know you shouldn't necessarily judge a player's ability on a price tag, but obviously it's such a fundamental thing in football. It's what all you can use as a barometer. But let's put some context to it. The three players they brought on, you've got Morgan Gibbs White, who is an England international, and I think they paid Wolves 40 million quid for him. You've got that Nicholas Dominguez, who I think they paid 20 million quid for him, and then you've got Nico Williams, who is, in my opinion, and you'd be hard to argue, probably the best left back / left wing back in the Premier League this season. And if you were to sell him, you wouldn't get much change out of probably 40 or 50 million quid. So, he's brought on three phenomenal talents there. And then, again, not long after that, brings on a fourth in Hudson-Odoi, who is another, So I did, once I saw the changes he was making, I did expect there to be a shift in the way they were playing, because they're too good of players to not have an impact, So, yes, I did.
But damning for those Forest players in the first half, because I would imagine they're not going to get a game anytime soon.
Well,
let's be honest.
I think Sean Dyche, to be fair to him, I know some people don't like him. I know a lot of people clubs where he's managed don't like his style. I suppose similar to kind of Parky in a way, quite an old school kind of manager. I've always liked him. I've always liked his honesty and stuff. And ultimately, the point he made after the game was, he gets players coming and knocking on his door saying, "Why am I not in the team?" And he said, "Well, you've answered your own question there with that performance tonight, because you've been given a chance and you've fluffed your lines," kind of thing is what he was saying. So I don't think anyone from that first half team could argue or give him anything. Any criticism for the way they played, because it was all on them.
Well, second half with the new players, Norwich Forest definitely turned up the wick. 55 minutes, Forest free kick on the edge of the box. Louise hits the target, almost in the top right-hand corner, but a diving save by Okonkwo manages to push it over the bar. 57 minutes, Gibbs White gets to the ball 20 yards out, passes the ball wide to Zavona, who shoots at goal. Okonkwo palms it out from his near post, and Gibbs White comes in for the follow-up but misses, with Arthur managing to just about get an outstretched heel to the ball to knock it out, which should have been a corner but was given as a goal kick, in much of the chagrin of players. But Wrexham did have some moments. 58 minutes, great wing play by Broadhead on the Wrexham left, beats about 3 players, passes to Kakache, ball back inside to Rathbone slides the pass into Broadhead in the box, surrounded by 3 defenders. What you were saying earlier, Jamie, he's terrifying because he's got 3 defenders around him and they can't keep with him, and he shoots and it's saved at the near post by the goalkeeper. I mean, incredible play. So Wrexham were trying to give, but you could see that Forest absolutely now were a massive threat, and were up against it. And 63 minutes, Forest came down the Wrexham left. Thomason struggled after coming on, to be brutally honest with you, because he replaced Kakache on that left wing. Cross into the centre of the box. Jesus jumps over Hyam, heads the ball against the post. And although it was close, whether it crossed the line, it definitely did. And Notts Forest got that goal to make it 2-1. I mean, at that point, Jamie, when you saw the amount of pressure over that kind of first 20 minutes, Nottingham Forest ramping that up, did you kind of think, yeah, we're going to be in real trouble here?
I knew it was coming. I knew a goal was coming. It was just a case of how long could we hold out, and could we maybe sneak another on a counter or a penalty or something like that. You could see it was coming. I mean, as the game went on, in addition to the quality that they now had on the field, they were really exploiting what was our weakness, which is our left-hand side, massively on our left-hand side. That we really struggled. And then when you've got players of the likes of Gibbs White, who is very much one of these players that always seems to have more time on the ball than he actually has, but is always good with the ball. You could see it building. Like you say, Arthur made a couple of good saves, but the encouraging thing from our point of view, even though we were conceding a lot of possession and we were conceding the majority of chances, we were still a threat. Like you said, that Broadhead one was probably the highlight of them. When their goal came, it didn't come as a huge surprise. Again, it was only just in. It wasn't like as if it was undeniable. You could see straight away as soon as the header kind of went towards the goal, my gaze just went straight to the referee, because he stuck his hand up looking at his watch, and it quite rightly went off, because then when you saw the replay from the touchline, you could see how far over the line it was. But look, I don't think you could begrudge them that goal at that point, because they absolutely were a different side in the second half and really put us under the cosh. So yeah, it was, the fact they'd scored it after 64 minutes made it a bit nervy, because I thought we've still got a lot of the half to see out here. And then, when a couple of minutes after that they bring on Hudson-Odoi, you think to yourself, oh Christ, here we go. And that's kind of how it played out, really.
Well, 73 minutes, as you said, Hudson-Odoi not been on long, but he fouls Windass on the Wrexham right. Long at a free kick, Dobson, who obviously we've waxed lyrical about, and we'll talk about him later, because I want to talk about a number of players, whips a free kick in, which is in a beautiful place, right in that kind of bit between the defensive line and the goalkeeper, goes past absolutely everybody towards the back post, and in pops Dom Hyam with a great header across goal into the far corner, his first goal as well, to put a 2-goal lead back in Wrexham's favour. I mean, again, you're talking about bingo cards earlier. Kakache wouldn't have been on my bingo card. Dom Hyam definitely would not have been on my bingo card.
No, but then obviously the fact that your central defenders always go up to set pieces anyway, I think they're more likely to pop up with a goal from a corner or a free kick or whatever. But look, I know it was funny because Ali McCoist was absolutely moist over the delivery from Dobson. I know a lot of people have talked about it. I mean, again, it's there are so many facets to his game that he's proved everybody, all of us and everybody outside of Wrexham, the Wrexham world, he's proved what a good player he is, because he can pass, he can tackle, he can shoot. But his delivery, that delivery was absolutely unbelievable. You literally couldn't have put it anywhere better. And exactly what you want to see from your certainly your centre backs that have come up, or from your big men, holding the line to stay onside. I think it was onside. It was literally right on the edge of onside. And ultimately, Dom Hines done all he needs, because, to be honest with you, George Dobson's done the hard work by putting in such an amazing ball, because it's taken out the defender and the goalkeeper. All Dom Hines has got to do is throw his heat at it and direct it towards the goal. And it's exactly what he did. And when we then went 3-1 up at that point, I'm thinking, wow, here we go. We might have done enough here now, because by restoring that two goal lead, I think the crucial thing was conceding again so soon after scoring.
That was the real gutter, when they literally 2 minutes later. Nottingham Forest realised now they really needed to pick up the game, otherwise they were going out. And you could see straight away from the kickoff, after we scored that goal, their intensity levels went up again. And Wrexham, I think, was kind of still celebrating, which was, they say, don't they, it's the most dangerous time after you score a goal, because you are at your most vulnerable. And Wrexham just couldn't cope. But Forest bolt down the Wrexham left, fire across into the centre of the box. Hudson-Odoi makes space for himself. So he actually makes space from the defender. You can see that our defender doesn't cover him. So he gets in the middle of the box on his own. You can't give him, a player like him, that space. And he beats a Concord down to his left, 3-2. As you rightly said, Jamie, were you kind of disappointed that we had conceded so soon after managing to get that goal lead back?
That was the most gutting thing about it. You can't take away from the quality of the goal. I mean, we'll talk about his second goal in a minute, but it was a quality goal from a very, very good player. Like I say, probably gave him a bit too much space. And you can analyse that goal from a defensive point of view to death, which is pointless. I don't really want to dwell on that. But yes, the most frustrating thing, and I think it would have been the most frustrating thing by a mile for Parky, is the fact that we conceded so soon after, because after being under the cosh for the majority of the second half, and then obviously conceding the first goal, but then getting the 2-goal lead back, you think to yourself, right, you've got 15 minutes here now to if you just settle it down, get hold of the ball for 5 minutes and pass it around a little bit and just take the sting out of it, the game's probably won. So to concede pretty much within a minute, minute and a half, would have been really frustrating. And from my point of view, and I would have known exactly what it was like inside the Kairos, because everybody's buttholes would have been going at that point, because you're thinking, here we go again. But like I say, if nothing else, it made for an unbelievable spectacle of another ingredient in the game, because the game was just ridiculous at this point.
It's not good. It's not good for my health, though, mate.
No,
it's really not good for my health. So Forest now absolutely started to batter us. We absolutely were. I was screaming, come out, because we were basically, the midfield was sitting on the laps of the defence. We were so tightly packed at the back. And basically, they just kept having the ball and just kept trying to batter us. And you're just thinking, we've now got 15 minutes. We've got to hang on. We won't hold on for 15 minutes. That's what I turned to Daniel, who sits next to me, and I said, we won't hold on for 15 minutes. It's not going to be possible. It doesn't matter how good we think we are. And hey, presto, 89 minutes, cross from the left, Hudson-Odoi in the box. He takes it on his chest. He's got just about enough room around him, and he volleys it into the far corner, 3-3. In my head, I'm just thinking, this is Sheffield United all over again when we played them in the Cup, where we had them right there, and we let that goal in at the very, very last. Except this time, there's no replays, so it could have been even more expensive. But I mean, were you surprised, disappointed? Were you kind of like me, thinking, well, that's it, the game's gone. We're not going to win now, because we had our chance and we lost it.
I wasn't surprised because of the way they were battering us. I wasn't disappointed. My overwhelming feeling at that point was, I'll be honest, I thought that's probably the game there, because I just didn't think, or I couldn't see how we could do another 30 minutes and hold on with how they were playing, the kind of physicality and the physical attributes that they had, what you'd expect from a Premier League team. But what I will say is that goal was superb. And I will give credit to, as much as it was painful as a Wrexham fan, if anybody that's watching or listening hasn't watched that goal back in slow motion, I would encourage you to do it. We spoke last week about Ollie Rathbone's goal at Blackburn and the technique and how good of a goal that was. The week before that, we spoke about Bamford's goal and how good of a goal that was for Sheffield United. This is up there. If you watch this, right, it is unbelievable. The technique to chest the ball whilst he's off the ground is incredible.
Yeah.
But what is remarkable is in between chesting the ball and then taking the shot is he has the foresight and the awareness to actually look at where the goalkeeper is. So the ball's coming at him here, he chests it up, and as the ball is up there and coming down, if you watch it in slow-mo, you can see him turning his head and see where the goalkeeper is, to then be able to adjust his body and to volley it in where he knew he was going to score. It's technically, it is an unbelievable goal, and you cannot be critical of any team conceding that. Hats off to him, superb goal. But yeah, from our point of view, it was gutting. It was gutting to concede in the last minute after the highs we'd had earlier in the game. And yeah, if I'm being brutally honest, I was worried at that point because we looked a bit spent. We a lot of that team have played a lot of minutes. And I know Nottingham Forrest have played loads of games well, but they just look fresher as a team. They just look fresher, and I couldn't see how we were going to hold on for another half an hour. But yeah, what a game! What 90 minutes.
I have to be honest, I would just wanted to go straight to penalties. I didn't want to do 30 minutes of extra time because I knew it was going to be basically us putting the shields up and hoping that they can't get through. And they had a number of close squeaks, but didn't manage to. I think they were starting to tire at that point. I mean, we had a chance on 101 minutes from a corner. Scar just heads the ball past the post, but that was about it for Wrexham. The rest of the time, we're pretty much just putting up the defences and trying to keep them out. I mean, were you impressed, though, that Wrexham did manage to keep Nottingham Forest out for 30 minutes without Nottingham Forest managing to breach the defence?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of a surprise, to be honest with you, in that extra time. I don't think they battered us as much as I expected them to. They were by far the better team. But I don't think they battered as much as I expected them to. So the fact that we were able to hold on was a real credit. I mean, it's an interesting one because I wasn't sure at first whether it would go to extra time, whether it was straight to penalties. I've got a funny feeling that now replays have been scrapped. I've got a funny feeling that in the not too distant they will change it again and it will just go straight to penalties.
I didn't get it, Jamie, because some people were leaving before the 90 minutes. So I don't know whether they thought there was replays.
Don't get me started on that. I've said to you a million times, and for my friend online who will probably have a go at me for having an opinion on this, but I don't understand unless you've got like an appointment to get to, or unless you're maybe like elderly or got a young child or something. Those reasons I can understand leaving a game early, but you and I sit in the ground and it's the same people, and I've never ever understood why people leave early, particularly when the game is maybe 2-1 or 1-0 or 0-0 or something. If it's 5-0 or something like that, fair enough. But I don't know. It blows my mind. It really blows my mind, to be honest with you. But
so Wrexham managed to weather the storm of extra time, which means the dreaded penalties at the tech end, thankfully, and Wrexham go first, thanks to James McLean for winning the toss. So because he won the toss, so he chose, which was great. There was at the tech end, and we got to go first. First set of penalties, Josh Windass steps up first for Wrexham, scores down the centre, keeper dives to the right, Wrexham 1-0. Gibbs White scores bottom left, Okonkwo dives to the right, 1-1. Up steps James McLean, who you're thinking, well, he's going to score because he scored before, and he misses the target completely from the high left. I think he tried to blast it and missed. I mean, did you kind of think, yeah, that's it, we're done? If James McLean's going to miss, we're done.
Unfortunately, when you're playing knockout football, there is no other way, is there? But I hate penalties. I've always hated penalties. Even when I watch penalty shootout and it's nothing to do with the team that it's not my team. I hate watching penalties because it's such a horrible way lose a game or to go out of a competition or to lose a cup or whatever it might be. So I always try and take him with a huge pinch of salt. I think I wouldn't say when McLean missed that at that point I thought we were done, because it was still early. I mean, what was he, the third taker for us? Was he second or third taker? Second. So there was still a long way to go. And even though Arthur's not necessarily had a fantastic record at saving penalties in his time, I'm saying that, but I'm not 100% sure. I need to look. I'll probably have to have a look at that. But I was confident with Arthur. There's just something about, I just felt confident with him at some point. So I wasn't, I think McLean will be gutted that he missed the penalty in the manner that he did.
Well, he put on his Instagram, didn't he? He did put on his Instagram the miss and his face, and then with the caption, "Here's how not to take penalties, kids."
Yeah, I mean, it's like good. Look, I'm not in a position to be critical of a professional, but for me, again, I just kind of referencing this to when I played football. You shouldn't be missing the target from the penalty spot. At the very least, you should be hitting the target. But look, he missed it. I think it was quite a good point that that Matt and Courtney made on the Racecourse Ramble pod I was listening to this morning from last night about talking about this and McLean, and you just hope that that's not his last kick in a Wrexham shirt. That'd be a horrible way to kind of finish his Wrexham career. But
that's what happened to Paul Mullin, wasn't it? I think Paul Mullin's last times was in that penalty shootout against Peterborough, I think, and he missed. So.
Yeah. I think if you spin it another way, he'll be no one more disappointed than him for missing. I think if you spin it another way, you've got to give him credit for stepping up and taking it. In the first place, because that takes some balls to actually get up and say I'll take one.
So Wrexham 2-1 down in penalties. Jesus steps up. I think he's Brazilian. Is he? Is that right? Brazilian? Jesus?
Yes, I think he is. Yeah. Jesus. Let's just, come on. That's like Thierry Henry. It's Terry Henry, isn't it? Come on. It's Jesus. His name's Igor Jesus.
He steps up. He shoots mid-left, but Okonkwo dives the right way and makes the save to keep the ball out, and it remains 1-1 on penalties. I mean, when Okonkwo made that save, you were saying earlier about, you had a feeling. I mean, somebody on this pod actually said last week that I thought that Okonkwo would pull out some amazing saves. Just saying.
Fair. He has got an air of confidence about him at the minute. I know, that mistake against Swansea we talked about. But I tell you what, again, testament to him as a character, because he's been phenomenal again since.
But it was a good save, wasn't it? It was a really good save.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was, again, he makes himself big, goes the right way. I mean, obviously there's a huge element of luck in penalty saves, isn't there? I know there's this whole thing about, they have these water bottles now, don't they, with the names on and things like that, which I look at that and I think to myself, how accurate can that be? Surely as a player, you're not going to stick to shoot in the same way every time. But there's a little bit of luck, isn't it? Because you've got to guess the right way. But if you're Arthur, once you've gone the right way, it's going to take some penalty to get it past him, because he's a fucking big frame, isn't he?
He's a big lad. Yeah, he's a big lad. Well, Doyle then steps up for Wrexham, scores mid-left. The keeper dives to the right, completely the wrong way. So that's 3-1 to Wrexham. 2-1 to Wrexham. I always get Hudson-Odoi then scores top right. Okonkwo goes the right way, but unfortunately just can't get to it. So that's 2-2. Thomason, hard shot mid-left. I mean, an absolute rocket from Thomason. And the keeper goes the right way and gets to it, but it's too powerful to stop it. So Wrexham then go 3-2 in the lead. Kevin's own Nico Williams then scores bottom right. Now, this is the one for me, because it goes under Arthur if you look at it. And you're kind of thinking, that was so close for me to getting saved.
Yeah. In a really kind of perverse way, I'm glad it did go in, because I think if that wouldn't have gone in and we'd have ended up winning, there would have been some bitching probably about the fact that it was Nico Williams. But yeah, look, it was one of them. It doesn't matter how it goes over the line, does it? I suppose it's just getting it over the line. So yeah, I think Arthur would have been one of those that would have been quite frustrating, because he was close to it, but it wasn't to be.
So 3-3, we're now pretty much into sudden death. First one to miss now gets it. I'm getting up steps Jay Rodriguez. You can. I don't know whether you heard it on telly, but there was a mass in the ground around me.
I was going to ask you about that because
I'm sorry, Jay. I am sorry. This is not against you. I can only report by what I heard sitting in the.
I couldn't. As soon as I saw him walking up, I was trying to listen, but you couldn't really pick it up on the TV. I was going to ask you about it because I did have a little chuckle to myself because I thought to myself, I can imagine what the feeling would have been around the ground when he realised it was him taking it. So yeah, it's quite funny that it was a audible grooms.
He hits an absolute belter, scores mid-right. Keeper doesn't even dive; he just stands on the spot. And I think for me, it's his reaction because he looks directly at camera and he absolutely, you can see actually that this really meant something to him.
Yeah, I mean, he again when I watched the highlights back, I tried to sort of have a bit more of a closer look. Again, I don't know whether because his reaction was very, like you say, it was very passionate, and he was saying something. I don't know whether could have been anything. I don't know whether whether what he was saying was some sort of reaction to to what he'd heard because he would have heard it in the ground, wouldn't he? The kind of the groan, shall we put it? So whether it was some kind of reaction to that, but either way. It's what you want to see, isn't it? As a fan, your player scores, whether it's in a penalty shootout, whether it's in open play, whether it's whatever. You want that's what you want to see. Somebody in his stage of his career has played in the Premier League, played at international football, and it just goes to show, doesn't it, that it still means something. It still means something. So yeah, reactions like that, I'm all over for me.
So Wrexham are 4-3 up on penalties. Nottingham Forrest has to score basically to stay in the penalty shootout. Hutchinson steps up, and we get this moment.
Amari Hutchinson facing Arthur Okonkwo. This has to go in. Saved by Okonkwo. These dreams keep getting wilder. Wrexham's epic rise has another big dose of FA Cup fever. A quite brilliant cup tie, and the racecourse is rocking again.
Cue pandemonium at the Stoke Kairos, as everybody can't believe it, and yet can believe it. Another one of those fantastic nights that happen every now and then. First Prem team knocked out by Wrexham in the FA Cup since 1999, so 27 years. To add to the list of many, many nights which we have enjoyed where we've managed to do this. Just first of all, Jamie, where does this rank in that long list of Wrexham achievements throughout its 161-year history?
Oh, that's a horrible question, that is, because there's so many variables. There are so many variables. You're talking different times and things like that. I mean, I think as a spectacle and as an entertainment piece, it was phenomenal, and it very much takes its place on that shelf. I'm going to answer it like that because there's no way I'm going to sit here and say, "Oh, it was better than when we beat, Arsenal, or it was better than when we beat Birmingham, or it was better than when we beat West Ham, or whatever." I'm not going to do that because they're very, very different scenarios. You can't compare them. I think it was a big achievement because the bottom line is, whichever way you skin it, we're still a lower ranked club than Nottingham Forest, and they're a Premier League team, we're a Championship team, and I
know you said earlier, but you look at how much their squad is worth and how much.
And to be honest with you, one thing that I did just want to briefly mention, which I think was a real eye opener for me, was in that second half. The talk about the values again. I hate referencing a player to a price tag because that's you can't really do that. But unfortunately, it's one of the only barometers that we've got. So forget the fact that I think I saw. I forget the gentleman's name now, so I apologise. But I saw something on Twitter. I should have saved it to refer to. But I saw a Wrexham fan on Twitter had put two tweets. One was Wrexham's squad and the cost, and then Nottingham Forest's. And I think theirs was something like 275 million or something like that. So you can't compare that. What I did once I'd calmed down and obviously the excitement had worn off a little bit, and particularly when I rewatched the highlights back and I reflected on the game a little bit, one overwhelming thought I did have was that second half performance just goes to show, that second half team we were facing and the performance that we put in against it, which was very commendable, just goes to show you how big of a gulf there is in the Premier League. And all this giddiness that we're all getting wrapped up in, me included, all this giddiness about Premier League, and if by some crazy miracle we got, playoffs or whatever it was, if we did get promoted, I tell you what, and even I'm not even talking about all the off-field kind of amenities that need to be brought up to the Premier League standard, just from an on-the-pitch perspective. If you look at that second half performance once they brought on their big hitters, and you look at the gulf between the two teams, it is frightening.
Yep.
It is frightening. And you go all the way back to the start of the documentary where Rob was jokingly saying about Ryan and his telecommunications money and his alcohol money. I tell you what, we've got obviously the Allen family and we've got that Apollo, but I tell you what, we need to find the connection to a Saudi Arabian oil baron or something, because it's the gulf between the two, the two leagues and the two levels of quality is unbelievable. And it was a real eye opener for me, that real eye opener. But don't take away from the achievement, to do it on penalties or however we did it. For big parts of that game, we went toe to toe with them, and we certainly didn't look out of place.
It's interesting. I've seen some, very few, I'll grant you, but some online saying, well, Wrexham only won because Nottingham Forest were rubbish. Not saying that Wrexham actually were decent. I think that's unfair. I think that's really unfair.
It is very unfair, because whichever way you skin it, it was very much, not to get too cliche, but it was very much a game of two halves. And granted, they were pap in the first half, but over the course of the game, we've still created 17 shots on goal, 7 on target. We've scored 3 goals. So I think it would be fair if those people were saying if Nottingham Forest would have played their second half team from the start, it would have been different. Probably would have been. But they didn't. And this goes right back to what I said at the beginning, which unfortunately it's a sad reality of the Premier League now, is the fact that a lot of teams in the Premier League, even someone in Nottingham Forest's position, I'm not even talking about your Cities and your Chelseas and your Arsenals, even at the bottom level of the Premier League, they don't rank this, they don't rank this as in the kind of list of importance. And the sad thing with that is that I think a lot of that is down to money. I think for some of the teams who are involved in, Europe and things like that, I can understand there's maybe a fixture congestion element to it. But I think for a lot of the Premier League clubs, I think it's a money thing. I think they don't value it because they'd rather finish 16th in the Premier League and stay in the Premier League. That's probably financially far better for them.
It's 105 million, isn't it? They say that if you drop out, you lose 105 million. And the FA Cup doesn't pay anywhere near that. It's
a sad state of affairs, because, like I say, that the weekend just gone. Not only our game set the tone for the weekend, but there was some brilliant games. I mean, like I say, the Macclesfield one is unbelievable. But there were some brilliant games across the weekend. The only shitty bit of it, not a single game on terrestrial TV, which is unforgivable.
That's
unforgivable.
Terrible.
That needs to be sorted out.
It should be a protected cup, this like Wimbledon and like a number of other things. It shouldn't be behind a paywall. It's terrible. Right, so let's talk about Wrexham players. I don't want to talk about Nottingham Forest players because somebody else can talk about them. Let's talk about Wrexham players. Arthur Okonkwo obviously got man of the match.
He's got the biggest Hands
He
in
is.
the championship.
Absolutely, biggest hands in the championship. But I'll give you an open floor here. Tell me what players that you were most impressed with on the Wrexham side, and you've got Arthur plus 16 to choose from. So there's a lot.
And to be honest with you, I think you could wax lyrical about all of them. You know, they all contributed in some way, didn't they? I think probably the ones for me that I would pick out. Rolls for me was superb again. I briefly mentioned it before. He just gets better and better, and it's just like I said before. My biggest worry with him is keeping hold of him. You can absolutely see why Man City have put a buyback clause in.
Absolutely.
Yes, no problem, Wrexham. We will sell him to you for £8 million. We'll happily take your money. Thank you very much. And then you develop him for the next 2 years, and hopefully he will develop into the player that we think he will, and then we'll buy him back off you. Unbelievable. Yeah, he another phenomenal game, and you got to feel a little bit for Lewis Brunt, because he was playing well in the team before he got that injury. He's obviously had a horrible injury. I think he's reportedly close to coming back, but I can't see him getting anywhere near the team barring an injury or something. But yeah, Doyle was brilliant. Kakachi I thought was decent. Nice to see him getting some minutes, some good minutes in. Hopefully now we'll get some consistency out of him, and we'll see him now build up. I wouldn't surprise me if he does maybe another 60 minutes on Saturday, and then maybe even gets rotated on Tuesday and then comes back in for QPR. But hopefully build him up.
It was interesting to see after he went off and Thomason came on. Thomason really struggled. Really struggled.
Which is
so you could see suddenly that although Thomason's done brilliantly, and he's done it incredibly well, he has a ceiling for me.
It just showed us in real time. It showed us what we've all been saying for weeks and weeks and weeks, which is Kakachi and Kabore. Even though, like you said, Thomason was phenomenal over the Christmas period, particularly in that Sheffield United game, and at least we know we've got that as an option if we need it. But it's not his position, and I think Kakachi and Kabore are just so far ahead of any other options we've got at wing backs. Longman, to be fair to him, was decent and has been okay, but again, I just think if you look at some of the flashes that we've seen from Kabore when he's been playing, he is just a different level, and that's the same with Kakachi. So I think the really exciting thing coming into the second half of the season now is that hopefully, and I'm keeping everything crossed, that Kakachi's got over his injury problems and he can get a consistent run in the team now. And fingers crossed the same with Kabore. He's had that injury. He's been away with Burkina Faso, and he's back. The fact that the prospect that we're now entering this second half of the season, hopefully with both of those fit and ready to go, is really exciting, because I just think they just offer us so much more than anything else we've got, and I mean that in the most respectful way possible. But I thought Kakachi was decent. Broadhead, I thought had a very, very good game. Flashes in the game of absolute brilliance. And I'm just so thrilled to see him producing now every week moments that we knew he was capable of. Even though and it's great, obviously, that we've got this flexibility now with Rathbone obviously coming back from injury and being in brilliant form again. He was really, really good. Another goal. To be in a situation where we've now, Parky's now shifted the formation slightly and is playing with these two advanced, attacking midfielders to support the striker. To be in a position where we can rotate between Broadhead, Rathbone and Windass, and even O'Brien to a point, but certainly Broadhead, Windass and Rathbone. It's an unbelievable position to be in, so that's great. Yeah, I thought Rathbone was good. Sam Smith, I thought, had another brilliant game. Even though he fluffed that big chance at the end of the first half, he runs for days. And I think he was cramping up a little bit towards the end of the game, which is why I think Rodriguez came on. But again, credit to the team and to Parky, because I think we've seen the best of Sam Smith in recent weeks when Kiefer Moore's been out. But that's because we've played to his strengths. We've changed the way we play, and we're playing to his strengths, and he's flourished. Which is why I said before, I think it would be really harsh if Kiefer Moore is fit and just comes straight back into the team.
Yeah.
It's hard to argue that shouldn't happen because of the goals Kiefer scored for us. But tough on Smith, but I thought he was brilliant again. But the standout was Dobson. I think unbelievable. Unbelievable. I think he has to be, at the minute, he has to be the front runner for the player of the season at this point. To this point, he has to be.
Can't argue with you. I really can't.
You know, I will quite happily admit he's proved me wrong as well as many others, because I genuinely didn't think, particularly once we'd signed those 11 players in the transfer window, if you'd have asked me then, and probably a lot of other fans as well, who's going to be in your starting 11, Dobson wouldn't have been in many people's. And I think, to be fair, I think the fact that Sheaf obviously took some time, you know, Matty James, I think he was required maybe, he was required earlier than thought. But he has just been a revelation this season, and I think has proved any doubters, me and others, you know, how good of a player he actually is. And all elements of his game, you know, he's a brilliant defensive midfielder. You know, he breaks up play. He's got an unbelievable engine on him. He's not necessarily quick, but he's got an unbelievable engine on him. He covers every blade of grass. But I think that the eye-opening thing for me is his ball striking, his passing, and his set-piece delivery is unbelievable, and just something that I just didn't think he had in his locker. But he's, excuse me, he very much has. I think the only thing, and you know, again, if you're Parky and you're working with him or with players, you know, you're always going to look to try and how can we improve said player? You know, what can you improve in your game to make you better? And I think the one thing you probably say you'd want to see a bit more from Dobson is maybe shooting a bit more and picking up a goal or two, adding a goal or two. But you know, that's just to be clear from my friend online. I'm not being critical of Dobson there at all. You know, he's been phenomenal. But yeah, I think if he could add a couple of goals to his game as well, he's a complete midfielder. But yeah, against Forest, you know, he was against some big name players there. You know, it was a shame really that he wasn't, you know, Anderson wasn't playing, because I think Anderson is their star man and you know, arguably one of the best players in the Premier League. Obviously, he'd been given a well-deserved rest, wasn't involved at all. It would have been fascinating to see if he was in there, because you know, how would Dobson have matched up against him? But look, against Forest, he was superb, absolutely superb. But yeah, they all, to be fair to them all, everyone that played, everyone that came on, they all played their part in some way.
So Parky gets us to the fourth round, 3rd times out of 4. He's got us to the 4th round of the FA Cup, which is an incredible stat. I mean, the only hiccup was Harrogate last year in round 1, which I went to up to Harrogate, and that was horrendous. Apart from that, we've been to round 4 3 times out of 4, which is incredible. You know, pull off a Premier League scalp, do all these fantastic things, and what reward do we get? Round 4, Ipswich at home. I was gutted, absolutely gutted, because I'm thinking of all the teams. We've got a team that the next week will be playing at home in the league. It's not going to be a very exciting game because of the fact is that it's a rival that is so close, and there is a danger with Ipswich's form that they could knock us out. How did you feel when you saw that Magic Ball 7 come out and thinking, yeah, come on, let's have a Liverpool, let's have a Man City, Ipswich Town?
Yeah, I mean, look, I agree with you. I was gutted. It is a shite draw, and that's not being disrespectful to Ipswich. I mean, you say that you're gutted, I say I'm gutted. I'm sure the Ipswich fans are more gutted than we are, because from their point of view, to be travelling, to have to travel up here 2 weeks in consecutive weekends is crazy. It's one of them, isn't it? I think in an ideal world, from my point of view, I'm very much in the camp of, or I was very much in the camp of, I wanted a big, another big Premier League game. Ideally at home, because I think we stand more chance of beating anybody on a one-off game at home. And the days of, back in the day when we used to, before we had the luxury of coming into the competition at round 3, if we got to round 3, that was always the golden goose. And obviously back in the days of National League and before Rob and Ryan, we used to pray for a big name, didn't we? Because and away from home, because it's for the money, but that's not really a factor now. But if I'm being selfish, I was hoping for, to be honest with you, before the weekend's games, I wanted either Everton, Newcastle, or Spurs away, because all 3 of those grounds I would love to go to. But the one thing that I didn't want, ideally, was a team in our league. If we couldn't get a Premier League team, okay, but I would have preferred then a lower league team. And I know that makes you a target, because you then become the scalp. But I think you're then back in the realms of all being equal. You've got a better chance of beating a lower league team, and then obviously, hopefully, move on to the next round and get, hopefully, then next time you get a Premier League team. But a bit gutted, because it wasn't the draw that I don't think many of us wanted. I think the only person that I've seen or heard say they don't mind it is Matt on Racecourse Ramble. But he's the only one I've heard, to be fair. Everybody else has been a little bit peeved with it. But it's a tough one, isn't it? Because if I said to you now, we're playing them twice in a week, once in the league, once in the cup. You can only win one. Which one do you want?
Oh, the league.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? I think that's the thing is you say that, and I would agree with you. But it'll be fucking horrible going out of the cup at home to them. So yeah, it could have been better. It could have been better. With the greatest respect to Ipswich, I'm not being disrespectful to Ipswich. I'm sure they feel. Well, in fact, I know they feel the same way, because a lot of the stuff I saw online, their fans were not exactly overjoyed about the prospect of having to spend 2 consecutive weekends in Wrexham. I got a funny feeling this will probably won't take place on Saturday at 3 p.m. because the TNT or whoever it is will want to get a lob on for Ed Sheeran against Ryan Reynolds again.
I don't think this is a sexy game, though. I don't think it's a sexy game like a non-league versus a Premiership club or a Premiership clash.
It isn't in isolation, but it probably will get picked up just purely because of the owner involvement. Because that was the only thing I didn't really like about the TNT coverage of the game, was the rimming they were doing to Ryan Reynolds in particular was just unbelievable, quite cringy, unbelievable at times. So I'd be very surprised if this one doesn't get moved. If I had to guess, I'd say this is probably going to be picked up to be one of the Sunday afternoon games. If I had to guess.
Obviously, that meant we were playing Bristol City away on Friday the 13th. Haha. That will now be rescheduled, and it'll be interesting to see, actually, because I've looked at the calendar and there aren't actually that many dates where you could put it in, because there's not many times midweek, which doesn't interfere with the international break or everything else. And normally they don't let you play it until after it was supposed to be played. They won't bring it forward. So it's possible that they'll move it to the midweek after the cup game. So we might have Ipswich at home and then have to go Bristol away and then come back and play Ipswich at home. Because there's that, or look at the calendar for me, it's almost the second to last game of the season. That's how far away it would have to go because of the scheduling point of view.
Yeah, I mean these are the downsides, aren't they, to, as much as it's great to progress in cup competitions, that is the downside, isn't it? Is it does have an impact on your league fixtures. And I think, from our point of view, if it was affecting a home league game, it wouldn't be as bad. But like you say, if they potentially play this, the midweek in between the 2 Ipswich games, logistically and from a physicality point of view of the team, the lads having to play that's going to be crap, having to play at home on the Saturday, going to Bristol on Tuesday or the Wednesday, and then coming back to play home again on the Saturday or Sunday or whenever it's going to be. It's going to be bloody horrible. But
And Bristol are going to be a tough side. To go to Bristol, they are. That's going to be a difficult match. So it's not one we can say, we'll walk it.
No, absolutely not. And they're going to, they're going to be right up for it, aren't they? Because obviously every team we play is, and they're going to want some revenge because we beat them at our place. So, it's not going to be an easy game that by any stretch whenever it takes place. But it'd be interesting to see when they do rearrange that. So, yeah.
So let's just put in context. Wrexham knock out Nottingham Forest 3-3. I think if you were a neutral, I think it was a brilliant game to watch. Exciting, had goals, had penalties, had all the thing, had the atmosphere and everything else. Just try and put, as a Wrexham fan, put this into context with regards to, how is this a kind of the next step along the road for Wrexham to the Premier League and everything that comes with that, or is this this is what Wrexham do? We are known within the FA Cup for giant killing, although this wasn't really a giant killing, some might say. But is this kind of Wrexham just doing Wrexham things?
A little bit, because we have got a romantic history in this competition, haven't we? I think it was a good barometer of kind of where we're at, because I don't think this wasn't a Macclesfield versus Crystal Palace level of shock, but neither was it, neither was it that sort of game in the sense of it was just one of those freak one-offs. If you got those two teams to play 100 times, Crystal Palace probably win 99 of them, and just happened to be the one that Macclesfield won. Yes, the game in the second half was very different to the first half because of the quality they were able to call on to the pitch. But even during that second half, we still did create chances. And I think what this probably was overall, it is still a phenomenal result and a great achievement, because whichever way you skin it, they're in a higher league than we are. And they've got a far superior squad to select from than we have. So it is still a huge achievement. But I think what it was a fantastic kind of reminder of just how far we've come. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I hope there'll be a time where, before I leave this mortal curl, I hope there'll be a time where I'll actually be able to stop with a pint or with a brew and actually properly digest and reflect on this time that we're experiencing now. We get caught up every week in, we've just lost to such and such, and we lose our shit, and there's no one worse for me than it. But if you're able to detach yourself, and every so often something will happen, and this, I think I kind of had one of these moments after this game where you have a moment to reflect on just where we're at and how unbelievably exciting it is that we're getting to live through this. Phenomenal achievement. Like you said before, as a neutral, I saw so many comments online from just footballing people who were just very complimentary, and it was actually really refreshing, because Wrexham have had so much shit, particularly this season, for their style of play, about how shit are they, and and all that. It was so refreshing to read so much positivity around the game as a whole.
There was a Premier League game, wasn't there? It was Arsenal-Liverpool before, and it was the worst 0-0 draw I think I've ever watched.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was terrible. And I think the guys at TNT must have had a semi on all through that game, because it was from their point of view, you literally couldn't have asked for any more. You couldn't have asked for any more. It was absolutely had everything. But no, like I say, I think for me, I think the headline for me with it is the fact that it was a great little kind of, you're back in the room kind of reminder of just exactly where we're at and how far we've come. The fact that for big parts of this game, we went toe to toe with the Premier League club and we didn't look out of place. Absolutely unbelievable. The only disappointing thing is that it's, of all those kind of top shelf achievements, particularly in the FA Cup we spoke about, I was at most of them. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to be at this one. But I'll take the L on that one.
Now on the Muchins podcast, it's time for today's newspaper, tomorrow's chip paper, where we catch up on Cymru and Wrexham football news. First up, Wrexham Academy had a great, topped off a great weekend as they beat Shrewsbury Youth at home, 3-2. Goals from Carrick Murphy, Lenny Briggs, and Oliver McTweed scoring the winner in the 92nd minute. Go, Oliver, and have that, you tractor drivers. Wrexham are now second in the league with 27 points. The next game is away versus Morecambe Youth on Saturday, 17th of January. First-year professional Max Purvis has also joined Cymru Premier side Flint Town United on loan until the end of the 25-26 season. Max first joined the club in 2016 and has progressed through the ranks, going on to make 95 appearances for the under-18s and reserves. The defender was also part of the 24-25 under-18 side that progressed to the third round of the FA Youth Cup, with the young Red Dragons beating Morecambe and Tranmere Rovers in the process. Daz, I want to get your take on this one. Obviously, Academy now starting to turn out. We're now starting to loan out Academy players. And Flint Town, who are obviously embroiled in the Welsh leagues, and are they JD Cymru? Or are they one of the divisions below that? Not quite sure.
No,
I've dropped that on you, so it's not fair to me asking you that. But, I mean, it's great that we are now taking Academy players and we're now pushing that into the Welsh setup. That's great, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it helps if you're recruiting players that seem to have been in the great bank robbery, because Lenny Briggs and Carrick Murphy sound like brilliant names for people that were part of the bank robbers.
Definitely.
No, yeah, no, it's the formula that every club needs now, in terms of keeping its pipeline, feeding the team properly, and that's something that we've talked about that Wrexham has struggled with over the years. They've not been able to compete to sign them in the first place, not to be able to not to lose them all to your Manchesters and Liverpools, both all the Premier teams, and so to be able to compete with them to get those youngsters through. But now the quality is coming through, quality, in terms of performances, but match experience, you can't beat it. So great that Max Purvis is getting that experience regularly at a level. League of Wales, decent enough, and involved, keeps it local, which is easier for them as well. So no, I just think this is proper. This is the way that the academy should be working. This is the way the setup and let's see what that then feeds in terms of how fruitful that becomes in the next couple of years.
And the other side of the coin, Jamie, Harry Ashfield, obviously, who's in the main squad, looks like he's possibly going to be going out in January on loan to a team like, apparently, Bristol Rovers are the top of the list. Bristol Rovers obviously are competing to basically stay in the league, so they've got a hard fight. I mean, he's obviously ex-academy. He's had some chances in the first team, done exceptionally well in the few times we've seen him. I think that's going to be great if he can get out into a League Two side, because that will really kind of sharpen his blade to getting them back ready for, some decent first team football in Wrexham. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, before I forget, bravo to the youth team for beating the Slops. That's
that's excellent. Yeah,
that was beating the young tractor drivers at an early age. That's I
mean, when you look at the I can't find it now. Well, there it is. When you look at the photos here, there's Oliver McTweed in the bottom right jumping after he scored the goal. I mean, that's proper excited, because of the fact is that they managed to beat the Slops in the 92nd minute. I mean, fair dues.
Yeah, because that's the thing, isn't it? They'll know, these lads are, even at this level, at this young age, they'll know the importance of fixtures like this, for the club. And like you say, it's a great. I mean, there's some cracking pictures that you've put on screen there. The celebration. That free kick in the top left there, and in the top right there, there's a lad in a blue kit with 6 fingers eating some carrots. So fair play. No, as far as Harry Ashfield goes, I'm absolutely on board with him going out on loan. I think that'll do him the world of good to get some regular minutes, the second half of the season. Obviously, he's had a bit of a bad injury this year. He's very highly thought of by Parky, so I don't, he's not going to go anywhere. And he's definitely, the opportunity is there for him to progress and to become a first team player for us. But I think in the short term he needs minutes and he needs, he needs to play games. So going out on loan, I'm all for. The only thing I'm a little bit confused about or a little bit surprised about is that Bristol Rovers are the ones supposedly leading the race. Now, the little snippets that I've kind of heard from like Parky's interviews with Rich Williams, the leader and stuff, is they seem to be, it sounds like they're letting Harry make the decision himself, as in like where he wants to go and so I don't know what the thought process behind him going to somewhere like Bristol Rovers is, but you've just got to trust him and you've got to trust the club. That
it must be difficult, mustn't it? Because Harry is a massive Wrexham fan, so there are certain teams he will not go and play for, even if they are on the doorstep. He won't go and play for Tranmere. He won't go and play for Shrewsbury. He certainly won't go and play for Chester. That'll never happen.
And that's fair enough. I just, no disrespect to Bristol Rovers, but I would have thought there was somebody a little bit higher up that would have.
Don't let Goff hear you saying that. Isn't that right, Daz? Don't let Goff hear you saying that.
He's not going to be a happy man.
No,
but I would have thought there would have been. I would have thought there would have been somebody a little bit higher up that would have been. And supposedly there have been several clubs that have shown an interest. So look, wherever he ends up. If he plays, as long as he plays, it's not going to do him any harm. And if it can help him, help him develop, then that can only be a good thing for us going forward, because we've seen flashes of it, haven't we? In the appearances we've seen of him. I mean, like you say, he loves the club. He's a Wrexham boy. There aren't many of them involved in and around the squad at all anymore. So hopefully he can develop. But I think a loan or two in the next 18 months will probably do him the world of good.
After the postponement of the Wrexham AFC Women's Gennaro Adran Trophy semi-final against Briton Ferry Llansawell, the fixture has now been rescheduled for this Sunday, January the 18th at 2 p.m, which we'll talk about in a bit. As a result of this change, the Red Dragons fixture schedule has been altered, with the other Gennaro Adran Trophy semi-final was also called off at the weekend. So brace yourself, because this might get a bit confusing. Jenny Sugarman's side will therefore face Briton Ferry Llansawell in the Gennaro Adran Premier action a week later. So that means the league game will be the week after next, taking place on Sunday the 25th. And the match has been selected by Scorio for live coverage, and so will kick off at a later time of 5:10 p.m. GMT. Phase 1 will conclude then with on the later date of Sunday, February the 1st, so the week after that. But instead of the Wrexham's final game being against Briton Ferry, it will now be against Barry Town away. And again, that is a 5:10 GMT kickoff at Jenner Park, because all the final games of Phase 1 are all 5 o'clock kickoffs. Confusing. So the Red Dragons' next 3 fixtures are outlined. Briton Ferry Llansawell in the trophy this Sunday, Briton Ferry Llansawell in the league the Sunday after, and then Barry Town United away the Sunday after that. Daz, this weather has really messed things up at the wrong time. The big one for me is we're playing Briton Ferry there twice. And Briton Ferry have already got a massive backlog, because they're playing Cardiff tonight, and they've got other games which they've in the cup and everything else. I mean, is this going to affect Wrexham, or do Wrexham just need to concentrate and get them head in the game and say, blah?
No, they're fortunate enough that all of their games are equally spaced out. So it's a Sunday to Sunday to Sunday, and I think that's your norm. I appreciate that bad weather will have an impact on games, because it always does. But I suppose the benefits we've got in Wales is that investment in the 4G pitches and things like that. So we've lost fewer games over the season than we could have done. There was a time when this league was historically, and the men's league the same, weeks without games, because it was just genuinely unsafe. So to have had the impact kept to quite a minimum, yes, unfortunately for Llansawell, it's their season, and a couple of the other teams have got the extra games that they're going to kind of suffer the most. But there's this cut-off point. They've got to get the league done by the split.
Yep.
So it's the nature of the gig, and if you want to be successful and you want to stay in the cup competition, it brings extra games, and that success is you want that. That's the thing for you. So I don't think it affects Wrexham at all. Weekly games, sort their heads out during the week, get ready for the weekend, sorted.
Fried potatoes, anyone? Luckily, it's time for the chip shop. Daz and Jamie are on hand with a smile and obviously wearing very little else, if I know those two. Let's have a look at the chip shop league table. Not fantastic.
Here we go.
Not
Here we
fantastic.
go.
What the hell is going on here now? Because I'm not here to check on the maths, so I am having to rely on a bit of,
I've been,
You know,
to be honest, I've been wondering all week what you scoring you were going to give yourself for that result last week. So come on, explain it. What points? Who got what points last week then?
So obviously there was the women's match was postponed until next week, which we'll talk about in a minute. The Wrexham Nottingham Forrest game obviously was the only game up on offer.
Yeah.
Jamie predicted a 2-1 Wrexham win, which he gets no points for because it wasn't a 2-1 Wrexham win. It was a draw. Daz predicted a 3-1 Notts Forest win. No points because it was a draw. And I predicted a draw with Wrexham to win on penalties. So I get 1 point. If I'd have predicted a 3-3 draw with Wrexham to win on penalties, I'd have got 2 points. But I don't. I get 1 point.
That's such bullshit. How can I not get any point? We won the game. We won the game.
But you didn't call it as a win. You didn't call it as a draw. You called it as an outright Wrexham win. Go to a bookies and see if they pay you out. If you predict a Wrexham win.
Yeah, you've got bookie tendencies. I'll give you that. So I've got to be more precise. So this week I've got to give you the minute and the second of who's going to score and when.
Don't be an arse. Don't be sour because I managed to get a point. I don't know what you're worried about. It's Daz who should be worried. I'm now 1 point closer to him. He's in serious jeopardy of hitting that trap door if he's not careful. So he's got to book his ideas up.
I know. I've got to start paying attention. You
do definitely. Well, let's start. Let's start tonight then. First into the fryer. It's Norwich City. So back to league action this week. Saturday, 17th of January. Stoke Kairas. 3 p.m. GMT kickoff. We welcome Norwich City for the next championship game. Last time, all the way back on September the 20th, Wrexham won 3-2 away at Carrow Road. 2 goals from Josh Windass, 1 from Ryan Longman. Since then, they've sacked manager Liam Manning in November after only 17 games in charge. Ouch. And I was an appointed ex-Rangers manager, Philippe Clement, who has signed Ali Ahmed this week from the Vancouver Whitecaps. Norwich are currently 22nd in the league with 6 wins, 6 draws, 14 losses, a goal difference of -11 and 24 points, only 1 point away from safety. Their last 5 results in the league: a 1-1 draw away at Preston, a 1-0 win at home to Charlton Athletic, a 1-0 loss at home to Watford, a 2-1 win away at Queen's Park Rangers, and a 2-0 loss at home to Stoke. And the chips are done. So, Jamie, back to league action. Norwich City, not doing fantastically in the league until fairly recently. They've started to pick up a bit of form. We obviously now are on a 5-game unbeaten streak in all competitions, including that fantastic result we talked about earlier on Friday. What are your kind of general feelings about this game? Do you think we're going to kind of, march over these guys, or it's going to be a little bit more difficult than we think it's going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got to be careful, haven't we? It's one of those that on paper you look at the positions in the league, and you look at the form guide, and you think, oh, it's one that we should win easily. If I use Blackburn as a recent example, when we played them at home, we all thought we would turn them over, and that was a real struggle. And then, granted, when we went to their place, we did, batter them. The change in manager does change things a little bit. Although obviously they have got a bit of turmoil going on at the minute with their main man, who's basically phoned in sick. I'm going to
ask you about that in a minute. I'll ask you about that in a minute after I speak to Dad.
But it's another great example of how crazy this league is, because you look at their fixtures, and obviously if you take the FA Cup game out of it, because that's not, it's no real marker. The last league game, they lost at home to Stoke, but I mean, they've been terrible at home. But then prior to that, they won away at QPR. Now, QPR have been a good side. So, it is a tough one. I mean, I think we've got to be confident because of the form we're in, the run we're in, the kind of high we're on after last Friday's game. And the fact we're at home, I think that's important. So, although I don't expect us to necessarily steamroll over them as the league positions and things would tell you, I do think we'll have enough to beat them. But I'm not expecting an easy afternoon.
I mean, Daz, Norwich City, it's one of those teams. It's one of the ones you expect, kind of, the big teams. They've had a terrible start to the season. I mean, if I remember on another pod, one of the guys there predicted them to go down, and we all laughed at him. Norwich City to go down, you must be joking. And here they are. They've consistently been in that bottom three or around there the whole of the first half of the season. I mean, are you surprised to see Norwich doing so badly?
Yeah, you're right, in the sense that they're one of those teams that have historically sort of been bottom of the Prem, top of the Championship, and just knocking back and forwards between them. They've never been really cementing that place, not for the heydays back in whatever 80s, 90s, whatever it was. But more recently they have been at least the best of the Championship sides. I don't know if that's to do with the ownership situation and Delia and all of that, but it's it changes things. It does change things, and I'm not surprised the manager's gone, because they are a team that you would, like you said, you think they should be doing better. I imagine they definitely do. And they've got a huge fan base over there. I mean, it's a huge, very popular club, and some notable success stories over the years. But this is not where you would expect them to be. But they have been punching up a little bit. They had decent results against Southampton and Sheffield and stuff. So it doesn't feel like some of the results doesn't suggest that that's where they should be. Jamie said QPR, so they have punched up a bit, but they've also done particularly poor against some of the teams around them, which can't be helping them, and that's probably the reason why they're in that position. Really, I don't know much about their squad these days. I don't know, in terms of keeping hold of some of their better players that have that Premier League experience. I imagine
Chris Sutton doesn't play for him anymore, Daz, just as a bit of a hint there for you.
Oh no! Oh, so who's up front with you? Who's up front with you and Roberts these days then?
I don't know. Not you and Roberts is the answer to that one, because
okay,
exactly. Yeah. I mean, Jamie, as you just intimated to, they have been having some problems. Josh Sargent, who's been their key striker, pretty much texted and saying, I'm not playing today, coach, because I might be going somewhere else. But they do have Makama, who's kind of been a replacement, score a hat-trick last week. I mean, are they in disarray that much where you kind of can take advantage of that as a Wrexham squad?
I wouldn't say the situation with Josh Sargent is what's making them in disarray. I mean, their performance and position in the league to date is kind of puts them in disarray, because, like you just said a minute ago, other than Richie, none of us expected Norwich to be struggling, and you're right, they certainly wouldn't have expected it. I assume that their hierarchy would have been saying playoffs as a minimum, which is probably why Liam Manning's no longer in a job. But this whole situation with Josh Sargent it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's another one of those examples why football is such a ridiculous sport sometimes, because it's like the whole thing of like managers getting sacked. You take Ruben Amorim's just been given the boot from Man United. He's gone back to Portugal with a massive smile on his face and a big fat check for 12 million quid.
Stop laughing, Daz. Stop laughing. I can see you laughing. Stop it.
I am very sad for them all. I am very sad.
But what other job where you underperform and you underdeliver and you get sacked because of your performance? What other job do you get a big payoff? It's crazy. But I mean, the fact that he's texted the manager the day before the game and said, "I'm not playing because I'm got some transfer stuff to sort out," is unbelievable. Because at the end of the day, he's a contracted player to that club. They pay his wages.
Yeah.
They own his ass, for want of a better phrase, and it's unforgivable.
Maybe I should email my line manager and say I don't fancy doing the work today because I'm actually doing something for the pod. I can imagine what kind of short shrift I would get.
It's crazy, but the stupid thing with it is that he's obviously getting advice from somewhere, and it's terrible advice. But what this has done now is basically this has forced Norwich's hand, because as much as the manager's come out and said he's going nowhere, we all know how this ends. We've seen it before. The players have got all the power. But what it does do is it potentially will put future suitors off. If this deal that he's got in the pipeline, which I think is Toronto, isn't it? But if this falls through and there's no going back for him, I don't think, at Norwich. So, I know people have been debating about whether Wrexham should go in for him because he's a proven Championship striker, but this would massively put me off. I don't think he'd pass the dickhead test.
No,
if
definitely
this
not.
is how he goes. Crazy.
Definitely not. Daz, Parky in his press conference today has basically talked about Kiefer coming back. Obviously, Kabore now coming back from his time at the Africa Cup of Nations, playing for Burkina Faso. There are a number of other players who are starting to jump back in now. Is that going to be an advantage, you think, for Parky, or is it now going to start to become a headache? Because he's had this kind of core of players over Christmas and New Year who have done fantastically well, and now he's kind of saying, well, should I put these players in? Should I mix it up a bit? I mean, is it a good thing or a bad thing?
Oh no, I mean it's a huge advantage and a headache. I mean I think you can have both of those things. We've talked over the years that there have been times where the injuries to the squad has made selecting a team really difficult. When you've got so much strength and depth now, yes, you could stick with your solid team that's that earned the right, but they have worked hard. The Christmas period is a relentlessly difficult period in these top levels, because you've got the FA Cups, you've got the cup games, as added to the fact that there's 2 games a week, and one on a Sunday and then the next one on a Tuesday, and it's Christmas is hard. Christmas, New Year is hard. So there's probably a few players that probably could do with the rest. But I also think it's good for competition. Competition's good for form, in the sense that you have to keep these players on their toes. I mean, I haven't been keeping an eye on the Burkina Faso's progress, but by the fact that I've noticed they weren't in the semi-finals, I'm going to assume that it didn't go very well.
They got out the group stage and then got knocked out.
Right.
Basically.
So I don't know how many games that meant for him. So whether or not he
did one game for about 20 minutes.
Oh, he's on a jolly. Stick him in. He's fresh. He's fresh, man.
He's had a holiday in Morocco for 6 weeks. What do you want?
Injuries are different. Obviously, you don't want to bring them back too soon. You want to make sure that they properly strengthen and get ready. So you don't want to rush too many players back, and obviously Kiefer's important. So I think it's a good headache to have. I imagine on previous history, I think Parky does tend to stick with he doesn't shake it up that often. But I don't think it's any harm having some real good quality on the bench to make impact decisions during the game, and just put the pressure on the first team to make sure that they keep that standard up.
I mean, obviously, Jamie, we have got now 3 games in 7 days. So, because we've got Leicester midweek, we'll talk about in a second, and then QPR away next week. I mean, can you see him making some changes for this one, or is he going to wait until the midweek game at home against Leicester?
I think for this one, it's more likely to revert back to what you would consider as our kind of strongest team, injuries dependent. Although I do have to say, if Kiefer Moore's fit again and he's ready to go, I expect he will come back in. But I tell you what, that will be harsh on Sam Smith.
Yep.
It's a really, really difficult situation Parky's got there, because I think in reality, if Kiefer's fit and ready to go, really, he should start on the bench, because like I say, it's a really harsh one to drop Smith after his performances over the last few weeks. But who knows? But yeah, I would imagine for this game, the changes he will make will probably just be to bring the team back to what we probably would all, agree is our strongest team. And then I think he will make subtle changes for Tuesday night, because again, it's going to be tough, isn't it, playing 2 games in the space of a few days, albeit both are at home, which helps. And then at least they've got a few days break before the QPR game. But you're right, 3 games in a week is a big ask.
So time for the Salt to get on Source Core. Jamie, what's your score prediction for Wrexham versus Norwich City?
I couldn't decide all day whether to go. So I'm going to go for a Wrexham win, but I couldn't decide whether it was just going to be by 1 goal or more. So in the end, I settled on a 3-1 Wrexham win.
Nice. Daz, what's your score prediction for Wrexham versus Norwich City?
Similarly, I was thinking the same thing, but I've only gone for a 2-1 Wrexham win.
Excellent.
Yeah, that was my other score.
Yeah, I'm predicting Wrexham 2, Norwich 0. Norwich is defense is so porous, it's unbelievable. They've let in so many goals. I think they'll manage to keep them out. I really do. I think you're probably right, Jamie. I think Max might come back in for this one unless he's still got that groin injury, and they might keep him over till Tuesday, and therefore then you'd still have the back three of, you'd have Scar in the centre, Hyam and Doyle, which I think will be fine. I think they'll be able to keep Norwich out, to be honest, and I think it'll be 2-0. But we're all predicting a Wrexham win, so that's good news there, to say the least. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And back into the fryer tonight. It's a rewarm for Briton Ferry Llansawell Women. So last Sunday's game, Wrexham Women versus Briton Ferry Llansawell Women in the semi-finals of the Adran Trophy was called off due to adverse weather. This will now be played this Sunday, on Sunday the 18th of January, kick-off 2 p.m. GMT. As we said earlier, Briton Ferry beat Cumbraeg Celtic FC Women 3-2 in round 1, and Barrytown United Women 2-0 in the quarterfinals to get here. Wrexham beat Llandudno Ladies 9-0 in round 1 and drew 2-2 with Aberystwyth Town Women before going through on penalties. Wrexham have won the last 4 head-to-heads with Briton Ferry, and the winner of this would meet either TNS or Cardiff City in the final on Sunday, 22nd of February at Newport. And the chips are done. So, Daz, we didn't have you for this one last week, so now we can get your valued opinion on this. Briton Ferry, as we said earlier, a lot of games to fit in because they've had a lot of games cancelled. If you look at their schedule over the next 2 weeks, they've pretty much got game Sunday, midweek, Sunday, midweek. So there's going to be a lot of games for a squad which is a lot of young players, not very big. Do you think Wrexham can take advantage of that? And if so, which one would you be targeting? Would you be targeting this game to get to the final, or would you be targeting next week's game to just get that extra 3 points in the bag for the league?
I don't think you have to be. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think you target this one because it's all about a final. Let's get some silverware. That's the mentality you've got to have. So, focus on a result straight away. Whether or not that would, motivate Briton Ferry to play better the week after, I doubt it. But it is a tough one for them. Like you said, there's the young squad. A lot of, they've got to play a lot of games.
They've got to go to ABBA. They've got to come up to us twice.
Yeah,
they play Cardiff, I think, at home. They got beat by Swansea Wednesday 3-0 in the one of the games. So they've got a lot of football in very little space of time, haven't they?
Definitely, and they've not been. They surprised us a bit last year, and I don't think they've been quite that team this year. So their strength is, I don't know, whether it's lost a couple of players or they've just not been quite as prolific. But they're still a decent side. They probably feel that they've got to make sure they focus on trying to chase down the New Saints to get into the second half, so that when the split happens, you're in the right half and then you're completely safe and protected and all of that. To be honest, relegation in this division is a non-conversation now. It's pot and pre all the way. Let's be honest. But in terms of winning something or meaningful games and all of that, they're probably hoping to see if they can chase down the New Saints, which. I
just realised Swansea beat New Saints last night, not Briton Ferry. Briton Ferry actually playing tonight, the Thursday, against Cardiff, I believe. I think. Yeah,
and I thought the Swansea game got cancelled to make room for the Wrexham Cup game. Weren't they supposed to be playing Swansea next anyway? So, that's why it's all been shuffled around. Exactly.
All gets very confusing after what we said in the news. It gets very confusing. Let me have a look at.
But they've got a couple
Briton Ferry are playing Cardiff tonight in the league, and it was Swansea beat TNS last night 3-0. So Briton Ferry are playing tonight, and then they've got to come up to us on Sunday for this cup game.
Yeah, and they've got so they've got a couple of games in hand on the Saints, either of those will give them a leapfrog then the New Saints. So a couple of decent results for them in the league is actually quite important. But you can't underestimate silverware. You can't underestimate going for a good cup run. So I think they're going to be motivated, but in terms of quality, they're not the same. They're not there.
He's gone. We've lost him. And they're actually don't hit refresh. It's fine. We're all fine. Oh, he's back. Hello.
What happened there?
I don't know. You left us. Briton Ferry are 2-0 down at half time as well. So they're already 2-0 down against Cardiff. So Daz, I just wanted to get your take on Wrexham quickly, because obviously this is the first game after the Cardiff defeat.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one really where they've got to get back on the horse, haven't they? And because they haven't been massively convincing, have they, for a number of weeks? I mean, those two Aberystwyth games were fantastic games, and we only just squeaked through. In the Welsh Cup game, a 4-0 win, but it, again, wasn't convincing. It took an entire half of football before Wrexham managed to breach the defences. Then, obviously, the Cardiff game where we lost in that 92nd minute. So I think this is really where Wrexham need to get back on the horse, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, you're still top of the table. I know that there's a game in hand for
not anymore. Not anymore. Not a 2-0.
Well,
at the moment, I know what you mean, though.
I know. But it's close. You know what I mean? It is close. So, but I don't think they should be that. They know they're competing at a top level of this league. They're competing well with Cardiff, and the fact that they're going to, for once now, there's a race on. This is the exciting thing about this league. Cardiff have had it far too easy for the last couple of seasons. With trebles and everything like that, without really being at threat of losing many of those games in those seasons. So, I think this is exciting. Yes, momentum will come from the cup game, momentum from doing well against the other teams, but you still got a long way to go yet with the fact that you've still got play Cardiff again twice, because you'll be in the breakaway group at the top. So it's still there are still 6-point games to be had, if we want to call them that. So I wouldn't be fretting. I think it's about keep doing what they're doing, and yes, there's some key players that perhaps haven't been as prolific or as reliable as they were at the beginning of the season. I know you guys been chatting about that a fair bit. So, if they can find that form, then a cup game like this could be the trigger and the kickstart that they need. So yeah, I'm not worried, but it'll be important to win.
And Cardiff have signed 2 more players this week as well, so it just shows the strength in depth that they've had, and they still have, and they're still building. So.
And they're worried. I think, I don't think Cardiff in the last couple of seasons have quite reacted in such a way. I think they're worried, and I think, they know they've got to bolster the squad because you did such a good job in the summer. So whether or not a counter reaction will come now before the window, but it's going to hopefully lift the whole league, though. But it's just regrettably it's currently just 2 teams. No, Swansea don't seem to be really competing at that, so it's a shame if it is going to be two horse race. But let's see if it can lift the whole league.
Agreed. So time for the salt, vinegar and sauce Koch. Daz, what's your score prediction for Wrexham Women versus Briton Ferry Llansawell Women? He's gone. You can't keep doing that. Jamie, I'll ask you then. So you last week.
Well, I'm back. Hello.
Oh, hello. He's back. Hello.
I don't know what happened.
Sort your internet out.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
That's normally my you. Yeah, exactly, I don't know what it is.
Daz, you predicted last week 4-0, but I will give you the chance to change that if you want to. So what's your prediction for Wrexham Women versus Briton Ferry Llansawell Women? He doesn't want to tell us, does he? Yes, he does.
I don't know if he's doing it on purpose or not anymore.
Hello, Daz.
I wish I could. I don't know. The thing is, at this end, everything goes blank. I have no idea what's going on here. It's just the 3 pictures drop out, and the tile's still there. So I thought I was still in the call, and it was you guys.
So last week you predicted 4-0. You can change that if you want to. Do you want to change it?
No, I mean, I think if I was going to change it, I might have knocked it down to 3-0. But I still think that this is going to be the reaction that they want. So no, I'm just going to stick with my gut feeling, and it was 4-0.
Jamie, you predicted 4-1 last week. Do you want to change it?
No, I'll leave it at 4-1.
And I predicted 3-2, and I'm going to leave it at 3-2. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And last into the fryer this week, it's Leicester City. So Tuesday, 20th of January, again at the Stoke Kairos, 8 p.m. GMT kickoff, we welcome Leicester City in the next game of the Championship. Last time we played them was the end of September, where Wrexham drew 1-1. I was there, freezing cold night. Nathan Broadhead scoring the second half equaliser in that one. Leicester are currently 12th in the league, 3 places below Wrexham. I would have never have thought I'd have said that. With 3 places below Wrexham, they've got 10 wins, 7 draws, 9 losses, a goal difference of -1 and 37 points. Their last 5 league results: a 4-1 loss away at Queen's Park Rangers, a 2-1 loss at home to Watford, a 2-1 win at home to Derby County, a 3-1 loss away at Sheffield United, and a 2-1 win at home to West Bromwich Albion. And the chips are done. So, Jamie, I know what you're going to say, because you always say it. It's a midweek game after the Norwich one, which we don't know the result of. Leicester, again, they seem to do better at home than they do away. Again, many have said they've underperformed. Possible points deduction coming. Lots of people have said it all season, but nothing's happened so far. And it's possible it will hit them just at the wrong time. I mean, what kind of a game are you expecting on Tuesday night?
Like I was saying with the Norwich one, it's another great example of the craziness of the league. Saying there before about Norwich's one of their recent fixtures was going away and winning at QPR, and yet these lot lost 4-1 to QPR. So I think Leicester have been a very Jekyll and Hyde team all season. They've had all sorts of turmoil in their squad, and then obviously this points deduction looming over them has probably not helped. But we can't deny they can be a threat. They've got some phenomenal players. I mean, Jordan James is the standout, isn't he? I mean, from what I've seen of him this season, he's been a head and shoulders above all the other players. And I think if he's not at a Premier League club next season, I'll be surprised. He's had a phenomenal season. It's a shame. I think we were reportedly very close with him, and it's a shame we couldn't get him. But they've got some quality. But again, we're at home, and obviously as we're talking about it now, before the Norwich game, we're in a good a good vein of form. As much as it's crazy, because when I give you a prediction in a minute, it's going to sound daft with what I'm saying now. I'd happily take 4 points from these next 2 games. But I do, I am confident. I don't until we have until we drop some points. I don't see how we can be anything other than confident. We've got some of our key players coming back from injury and Africa and everywhere else, and we're in an incredible run of form. So why shouldn't we be confident, whoever we're playing?
I mean, as some other podcasters have said over the last few weeks, if you go back if you ignore the first 3 games of the season, where some might say we were finding our feet, from the QPR loss where we were at home, only 2 teams have scored more points than us in the league, and that's Coventry and Ipswich. Those are the only two teams. So you can see that, and as I say, form wise, we've won 4 league games in a row. Watford are the only other ones to win 4. So we are definitely at the top list. I mean, Daz, Jamie talked about last week, saying about, Wrexham have a tendency to have this underdog opinion of themselves. Do you think that's now justified, or do Wrexham need to start thinking, do you know what, we're not the underdogs, we're actually pretty good, and people and teams should fear us, particularly coming to the Stoke Kairos?
Well, you can understand, the underdog, because you are the promoted side. I mean, let's not sugarcoat this. The usual expectation is you go up a division, you're not necessarily supposed to immediately be competing at the next one, and yet you did twice. So So it's quite an interesting sort of setup, and the fact that you've managed to improve the squad each time, build on the successes from before. We were all predicting, stability maybe, but for the fact that you're, what are you, 3 or 4 points off a promotion,
one point off the playoffs.
Off the playoffs.
6 points off the automatic promotion.
That's really impressive, and so just to be
it's a bloody miracle, mate. To be honest,
just the conversation, just to be in this conversation about it it's amazing. But it'll be I'll be interested to see how Leicester fare against Coventry first. They've got a real tough game. And it's an early kickoff or something, isn't it? It's televised and stuff. So that's obviously a bit of absolute television gold for them. But Coventry haven't had the best results of the last 3 games either. So Leicester could be boosted by that, a good result against them.
To be fair, that's a great point. The fact that they're playing Coventry on Saturday, I'd overlook that, to be fair. But yeah, the fact they're playing Coventry away from home, so they've got 2 away games on the trot. 2 difficult away games for them. So it's a big ask for them, and also, it's a very good point, that, to be fair, because that might have an impact on, what we get on Tuesday, whether that's good or bad, depending on what's happened against Coventry.
Yeah, no, squad selection, rotation, all of that. I mean, it's the the devil that is, lots of too many games in a small period of time. So, it's going to be interesting.
So time for the Salt, Vinegar and Sauce Cork. I'll go first in this one. I'm predicting Wrexham 2, Leicester City 1. I think as being at home, I think it'll be tighter than the Norwich game, because I think Leicester are better than Norwich. But I think us being at home at the moment is a big advantage. It really is. We're really starting to get back in our groove at home, and I need to get out of my head this underdog mentality, because every team I look at, I go, oh no, they're a big team. Well, we've consistently got points off these big teams, and those points have been away from home. So when we're home, I think we've got even more chance. So I'm going to say Wrexham 2, Leicester City 1. Jamie, what's your score prediction for Wrexham versus Leicester City?
I'm going to go for a 3-2 Wrexham win.
Nice. Daz, what's your score prediction for Wrexham versus Leicester City?
Wow, what's happened? What have I walked into here? This is
confidence, mate. Confidence.
God,
we are top of the league. See, we are top of the league.
You're going to need
top of the league. See, we are top of the league.
You're going to need wheelbarrows to carry those around, boys. I tell you.
I know.
The Coventry, like I say, the Coventry game for me is the only. I think Leicester are a big team. They've got a good squad, and I have no idea why they've sort of underachieved, and sort of their position in the division is what it is. But I don't know. There's something niggling at it for me, so I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
Nice. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm, and we'll be looking at all 3 of these games in next week's pod. And there we are, the end of another week. Great to have Daz back, of course. Next week, we will look back at Wrexham's home games versus Norwich City and Leicester City, and hopefully Wrexham Women getting into their first trophy final of the year, in the Adran Trophy final. And look forward, of course, to Wrexham visiting Loftus Road to take on Queen's Park Rangers, and Wrexham Women, hosting Briton Ferry Llansawell Women, but this time in the league rather than in the cup. Please let us know by the usual channels on social media, or by email, as we always welcome your comments, especially Jamie. Well, I know Jamie welcomes your comments, isn't that right,
Fucking
Jamie?
love them.
Smile when you say that.
God forbid I got an opinion. Don't have an opinion.
But please do email us, drop messages on social media, all those kind of things, as you see fit, because it makes me laugh. I enjoy it.
And for the record, I won't ever change.
And believe me, I know this. I've had many, many years of this. Of course, these 2 have been with us. First of all, Daz, great to see you back, mate. Hope you're well. Hope the family's well. Thanks very much for this week. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks very much. And yeah, nice to see you guys. Catch up soon again. Yeah.
Hang on. Haven't you got something to say to Hermes?
Oh. Do I?
Yeah.
Well, okay. I mean, Hermes,
Obviously, though, in cat language.
Okay.
So can you do it in meows, please?
In the sounds that Hermes likes.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Then it's my own natural voice. So Hermes, I'm sorry I've been away. I hope that me being back has made your day. Whatever that means.
I'm sure it has. And Jamie, thank you very much.
Hey, my pleasure. You go. Make sure you go and put that jumper back now. Yeah.
Roger Moore was Daz. Don't get us started on this because me and Daz will just do a James Bond podcast instead.
Listen, for the record,
we could do 4 hours on what was the greatest Bond theme tune, couldn't we, Daz? Quite
easily. Yeah, and sing every lyric
easily.
Yeah,
and we all know which one it is, except Daz always and I always disagree, so that's fine. But Jamie,
David,
after the giddy heights of Friday, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
I've obviously been Welshtechie. Looking forward to seeing you all again next week, and until then, come on, Cymru, and come on the town.
Clinton, 4-0. Thomas, Adran for the goal. That's number 5.
Plays it through to Bellamy. Craig Bellamy. It's 2-1 Wales. Craig Bellamy. Tony Hughes for Wrexham into the lead.
And that's it! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are the FA Trophy winners 2013!
Norwich cross, great ball! Equaliser! Elliot Lee!
Back promotions. Oh, can you believe it?
The Eat More Chips Podcast.